athlete and you want to continue to compete at the next level, there is a school for you, and it doesn't necessarily need to be a Power Five or a mid-major. There's a lot of great places out there and a lot of cool locations that people didn't tell us about. So we try to present conversations with people across the board, but also we like to highlight a lot of schools in the NAI Division Two, Division Three, JUCO, because a lot of the big organizations and media outlets and even podcasts, they tend to focus on Power Five and big D1 schools. And like I said, there's a lot of people doing a lot of great things. So we like to give shine to people like yourself, people like Coach Souter, the program, the athletic department, and let people know that, hey, there's a cool place in Williamsburg, Kentucky that you might not know about, but they're doing great things down there. And here's an opportunity for you. So we are excited to talk with you. This is our conversation with you is going to be our first with an athletic director. So we're excited for that because, as I said, we've been athletes for a very long time, and we always kind of wonder the inner workings of the athletic director. We sometimes think that it might be a little bit of a thankless job. You got to wear a lot of hats. There's a lot of moving pieces, and
Yeah,
while some people might be happy with you, there might be some other people that might not be so happy with you, or vice versa. So, we want to kind of get into what the role entails and all that good stuff, and hear a little bit more in depth about the University of the Cumberlands, the athletic department, and all the great stuff you guys got going on.
sure. Well, we appreciate that because you're right. Most of the small college stuff is getting glossed over, and with this landscape changing in the next, I don't know, however many months, years, there's going to be a lot of kids looking at smaller schools because I think there's going to be a lot of, and we can get into this later, but there's going to be a lot of opportunities lost at the Division I level due to sport cutting and position cutting and trying to pay for NIL. So.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is the Wild West these days with the
Mhm.
NIL and the transfer portal and all that stuff. And we do a lot of stuff in the winter with wrestling, and so you see a lot of that going all over the place. Kids going in and out of the portal, and I thought, wow, this is crazy. And then we started talking to track coaches and stuff, and the portal seemed kind of quiet, and now it just seems like it is. It is just as crazy as the wrestling portal. So Jimmy and I go back and forth with who's in, who's out, who's going where, and yeah, it's just interesting times for coaches and athletic directors, but also a probably interesting time for student athletes as well too.
Sure, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, James, you give us a thumbs up.
I did, sir.
Yeah,
We are
okay.
live.
All right, we are live. Joining us today is Chris Kraftick. He is the athletic director at the University of Cumberland. You may remember Coach Bradley Souter joining us for before the NAIA championships, after winning the indoor championships, and then also he was gracious with this time to join us right after to give us the lowdown on the outdoor meet. But Chris is the athletic director at Cumberland's. He's doing great things with the athletic department. He's been there for 7 years, I believe,
Yeah, just
and
finished my eighth actually. Yeah.
just finished his eighth year. And
Hmm.
for the first time in the University of Cumberland's history, they were the NAIA Learfield. Did I say that right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Learfield Directors Cup, meaning that they were the most dominant athletic department in the NAIA for the 2023-2024 school year. So, Chris, welcome to Airy Bros Radio. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to join us to talk a little bit more in depth about the University of Cumberland's athletic department.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity, and I love the shirts, guys. I know where you got them, but appreciate you repping the logo. Yeah, it's been an amazing year for Cumberland's. Happy to be a part of it, and just the thank you list from our president all the way down. Just I could go on and on about the commitment. When you win a Learfield Cup, you have to be committed as an institution. It's not a let's prop up one sport and try to do it. You have to be really good across the board, and our goal when I took over was comprehensive success. I kind of stole that from Mitch Barnhart at Kentucky when he took over there. He wanted to see comprehensive success, and I thought, man, what a great goal. What an amazing opportunity to show everybody that yes, I understand the revenue sports, the football, the basketball, the baseball, all really important, but man, those bowlers are really important too, and so are those cross country kids, and so are those tennis kids, and so are those golf kids, and And we're fortunate to be an institution that can support all of those programs and help them compete at a high level. And that's kind of been our mission.
Well, congratulations. You guys had three programs win national titles this year, if I'm correct. And that is impressive. That is a big deal, especially in different sports, girls soccer and track, indoor, outdoor. So that is awesome. You just said 8 years in, you guys obviously won the Learfield Cup. How are you doing as far as what you thought you were getting yourself into, where you are, where you want to go?
Yeah, I came at this from a golf background. I was a member of the PGA of America, still a member of the PGA of America. Um, was a golf professional and did that for 7, 8 years. And I knew that the AD at Cumberlands and they had played at our course and they needed a golf coach. And he said, "Would you be interested?" And I said, "Yeah, I'd love to do it." And so I did that for about 9 years and was fortunate to have some really good teams, had an individual national championship, had multiple top five finishes as a team. Um, and, but as that progressed, as I got to my last few years and I could see Coach Vernon was getting ready to retire, he started transitioning me more and more to the administrative side, which at first I didn't recognize. And then I started realizing what he was doing. And then about a year before he retired, he came to me and said, asked if I was interested. And again, it was kind of a non-traditional track, right? I wasn't thinking about trying to do any of those things. And um, so it was pretty amazing to get that nod. And our president was just a couple years in, and he had set our school on a path very different than a lot of other schools. He had really got in the online game. He saw what was coming, and people don't realize we have 2,000 students on campus. We have over 20,000 students total enrollment, and we're the third biggest school in Kentucky after Kentucky and Louisville when you go by total enrollment. So when you have 18,000 online students driving a revenue stream that most schools do not have, and then you have a president that's turning around and pouring that back into the undergrad kids, by reducing tuition, by scholarships, by athletic facilities, all the things. It's a pretty. I fell into an amazing situation. Now you still have to lead people. You can have everything handed to you, and if you don't lead people the right way or you don't have the right team around you, you can't. You still wouldn't be successful. But man, I didn't realize at the time the kind of opportunity I was getting. I did have a vision, what we call one big team. I don't know if Bradley's talked about it, but that is kind of what I spoke to earlier. If you're wearing our logo, if you're repping our logo, no matter what discipline you're doing, you're one of us. And it doesn't matter if it's esports to football to whatever. And I want those kids to understand that, buy into that. When your coaching staff buys into that, and then your athletes buy into that, it just kind of there's just a swell of energy on campus, and that's what we've seen.
So you bring up the 20,000 student enrollment and how that helps fund a lot of things, and you guys can pull from that money. Where do you guys kind of compare yourself, or what do you guys have compared to other NAIA schools that a recruit's going to look at and say, "Wow, this is very comparable to a Division I school. This is something I want to look at. This is better than some of the other schools that I'm looking at."
I think 100% it's our facilities. In our 8 years, we have touched every team from a facility standpoint. And the things that we've done with facilities, again, it would be take me too long to go into, but um, we have transformed every athletic facility, locker rooms, playing surfaces, everything. And so I think that's when kids walk in and they're going, I'll give you a good example. So we just rehired Paulo Neto to be our new men's soccer coach. And he was our coach from 2006 to 2010. And he was really successful in that 6 year span. He won 80 some games. And that's back when we were, we weren't really trying to win. We were using athletics as enrollment, which a lot of NAI schools do. And he was winning without a lot of resources and no facilities, those kind of things. So when he came back and he reached out to us and said, "Hey, I'm interested in maybe coming back," and we got together, and I'm walking him around the facilities, and he's looking around going, we will win. We have to win. Like kids, I can show this. A kid can be in Brazil, and I can show him on my phone, this is where you're going to play. Look at the video board, look at the turf, look at the locker room. And so I think facilities is where we 100% stand out, but where we've really separated ourselves from the on the NAI level is our tuition. We reduced tuition 57% 6 years ago, 5 years ago. And our total cost all in is 19,175 right now, and that's no books fees, that's housing, that's the whole deal. And that's half of what, and probably more than half of a lot of schools, private schools. And so that is, but you get that plus the facilities, plus now we're hopefully in a tradition and a great education. It's been a really good fit. So we have some advantages, there's no doubt. But I still think it's all about people. It's all about people and leading people the right way and having the right coaches and building a culture on your campus that you can be proud of.
Yeah, you just perfect segue there, because one of the things we always hit on with the coaches is the culture of the program, and you're at the helm of creating that culture within the athletic department itself. And obviously, the success breeds success, and winning the Learfield Cup is a huge accomplishment. And can you speak about that culture? And you mentioned the one big team concept in your vision.
I remember my first meeting with the staff that was just mine. It was in the summer, July 16, and I stood up there, and at that time Lindsey Wilson in the Mid-South Conference was winning everything. They were great nationally. They would go on a couple years later to win a Learfield themselves. They were really dominating. And I looked at our staff and I said, guys, we're going to catch them. And we were really focused primarily on the conference world. We weren't even Learfield wasn't even on our radar. It was how do we catch Lindsey? How do we compete with Lindsey? How do we, build what we've got? And it was, and I remember some of those coaches looking at me like, you're crazy, like they're ahead of us. Like there's no, and I could sense it in the room. There were some that were like, heck yeah, I'm glad somebody said it. Let's go. And then there were some that were like, you're crazy. Like we can't, they were just kind of set in that fixed mindset of they've beaten us. And so that was really the target at first. And so the one big team really got a lot of those smaller Olympic sport because I'm coming from a golf background. I had kids that were unbelievable, all Americans, and I knew that nobody on campus knew who these kids were, right? And so I always joke that these cross country kids, they're special. If you see me running, somebody's chasing me. Like these kids are what they do. Nobody wants to do, but they are gifted at what they do and they love it. And so we're going to embrace that. We have world-class archers on our campus. And if I took those football kids out and said, hey, go shoot archery, they'd realize real quick how special that is, right? At the same time, those archer kids aren't going to go tackle anybody. And so it's respect everybody. And when those coaches started seeing, whoa, this is different, right? Because most of the ADs at our level are ex-football, basketball, baseball coaches. They are. And so they're normal, they're going to get pulled to those sports just naturally. I love football. Like I love football. I spend my Sundays, that's my downtime is watching Red Zone. Like I love it all, but I also understand it has its place, just like everything else on our campus. And so it didn't take long for buy-in from a lot of the smaller sports. But then I went and had some personal conversations with some of the bigger sports. And I said, look, this is going to be our mindset and it's going to elevate you. It's going to help you. And you could see that. And then we needed to address our women's teams, and our women's teams were at that time not doing great. Softball hadn't had a winning season in years. Women's basketball was struggling. Women's soccer was struggling, believe it or not. But the year before Coach Hamilton got in, they won one game. And we had to make some changes. And, we brought in the right people. And then when you bring in new people, they're kind of falling in love with the culture. And then it just kind of kept steamrolling from there. So, but yeah, the first few years were all focused on how do we get more competitive in our conference. And then once we got to where we were winning our conference stuff, then it's like, all right, now how do we shift our focus to nationals? And now I was just talking with our team today. We've got to shift our focus to, all right, coaches, it is not national championship or bust. I know we finally won some. Like we had gone 56 years as an NAI school without winning a national championship. And then this year we won three, right? And so, but I don't want our coaches, our softball and baseball coaches, both made the World Series and made great runs and won conference championships. I don't want them thinking if we don't win a red banner, it's for naught. The season that we can't have that mindset. The key to winning those things is just keep giving yourself chances year after year after year and going through the process. And so I've got to be careful now as a leader to make sure they understand that we're not measuring success just by this one factor, that there's a lot of things that go into this, and that and that's our next challenge, because coaches are internally put that pressure on themselves, right? Even if it's not something I'm saying or thinking, they're thinking it themselves. And so how am I going to be in tune with what they need to continue to effectively do their job without this, we have to win this or we're not being successful because other people on our campus were able to do it. And so the challenges evolve. That's what makes the job fun, is the challenges evolve. Like my job is coaching coaches, right? That's what I do. Like they coach their athletes, I coach them. We use disc profile. I don't know if from athlete assessment in Australia, and all of our staff takes the disc profiles, and we know their profiles. I know their personality types, their behavior types. BJ Temple's been instrumental in helping me orchestrate that, one of my assistant ADs, and we will literally have a conversation about a problem, and he'll say, okay, remember this coach is a C, or remember this coach is a D. This is how we need to approach it. And that's how we try to approach everything. Instead of try to be very measured, and we think about what's the best way to handle each person on our staff, and help our coaches, just like they're helping their athletes get in the right frame of mind to be successful. I've got to help my coaches do the same thing. Right. And if they're the right frame of mind, they're going to be more effective and they're going to be better for their student athletes.
Talk about your coaching coaches, and a lot of times with the coaches, their favorite part of coaching is the X's and O's and the coaching of the athletes and the conversations with the athletes. But we all know from a director position or from a head coach position, there's a lot of things that go on. You're the CEO of the athletic department at the University of Cumberlands, and so other than coaching the coaches, which is probably your favorite part of it, what, as I said, you're the first athletic director we've had on. So what other duties do you encounter on a daily basis in your CEO role?
I think the stuff that it's getting them to do their paperwork, right? They didn't get into coaching to do paperwork and worry about budgets and do all the things that we need them to do from a business operation standpoint. And so I think getting them to do those things is the hardest part. Some are amazing at it, and some, I mean, I literally have to tell them 3 or 4 times because it's just not where their focus is. And so, I think that's probably the part I don't love. I am not wonderful at fundraising or asking for money. Again, fortunately, I'm at a school that we don't have to do a lot of that, but we still have great corporate partners. And I mentioned Dr. Temple a minute ago. He really has taken that load off of me. Tommy Chazoff is our assistant AD sports information. He is unbelievable at his job. He's got to be the best in the NAIA. I've got Christy Brewers, who's assistant AD, who was a former athlete here, who does all our game ops. And I've got Sam Lee, who's another assistant AD who came over from Union, who does all our NIL and eligibility type of and play NAI and all the eligibility stuff. So we have delegated all the big tasks. And now it wasn't that way when I started 8 years ago. It was me and my administrative assistant and BJ Temple. It was the 3 of us. And we were doing all that stuff. And so I've been able to expand that staff because we have 28 teams and an 80-person staff and over 1,000 athletes. So it was justified. And so now I'm able to they're coming to me with things throughout the day versus me getting overwhelmed with all of it. They all have their own area that they focus on, and then they kind of touch base with me throughout the day. So we're at, from a quality of life standpoint and a stress level standpoint, I'm in the best place I've ever been. And I think our department is functioning at the highest it's ever been. Most schools at our level, again, it's a couple person shop, right? And they're doing all of it in the game ops and those things. So, but I'm really fortunate to have a really, really good team around me that takes care of their areas, and then we kind of meet once a week and sit over and talk about them, and then of course things will come up through the week. Um, but that whole dynamic has shifted a lot in the last few years. But again, it goes back to our president saying, okay, if we're going to operate as we want to be the best athletic department in the NEI, we've got to do it this way. And we sat down and figured out what we needed and was able to hire just amazing people. But it's the same thing with coaches. We do, all our coaching hires have been very thoughtful, we work through the process. We don't just automatically promote the assistant. We work really hard at making sure that we're not missing anything, right? And I feel like the thing we've done best is hiring good people.
It's funny you say the budget is what you don't like. We've had over 65 wrestling coaches on here, and I think, two really like doing the budget, and the rest were like, oh, budget. My AD's always yelling at me about the budget. So I think that is hilarious. Also, you said you sat down with the coaches and said, hey, we're doing really good now, but we got to realize it's more than just about the winning. And Rich and we always feel that sports was the way we learned how to win and lose and how to live our lives through our sports. I'm curious how you weigh and measure where a coach might not be getting it done right, as far as wins and losses, but you also see that they're putting the effort to make better men and better women. How do you kind of balance that? And at what point is it, hey, we're not getting it done on the field? We got to consider other things. I know you said at one point you had to get rid of a soccer coach. How do you weigh and measure that?
It's really difficult because again, when you make staff changes, you're sending messages to your staff whether you want to or not. Like they're going to interpret what's going on. And so, one thing that we look at, of course we want to win. And our president's like, look, if we're going to sponsor the sport, let's try to be good at it. We get that. But again, it's not all about that. And I'll give you a great example. We've got a team this last year that made the national tournament for the first time in the program's history, right? That was a huge accomplishment. Now, this program has been winning games, not quite competing for conference championships year in, year out, but had a great record every year. Um, and amazing students, amazing people, great coaching staff. They cared about the kids. They're doing everything right, right? But they're not winning. They weren't winning at quite the level of our other teams. But man, it was one of those things where like you could see progress. You could see little progress every year, and things got a little better every year. And then last year they made the jump, made the national tournament, won the conference tournament, and it was a huge moment for that program. Well, I'm going to judge it by where that program is at this moment. We hired a football coach 2 years ago that I think is going to be absolutely unbelievable once he gets this thing going. But he is playing the long game. He's not trying to quick fix. He's not trying to bring in kids with pasts and those kind of things. He's trying to do it the right way. And we went 5-5 the first year, went 6-4 last year. We might go 7-3 this year. But I'm seeing steps. I'm seeing everything progress. I'm seeing good academics. I'm seeing good culture. We're not having problems on the weekends, right? So you have to judge all that. And then there becomes a point where, all right, we are given a lot of resources. It may be time that we're maybe not getting quite enough out of this. And then you have to make those changes. And some are easy. I've always had a rule. It's pretty simple. If I wouldn't let my kid play for somebody, they're not coaching on my staff, right? I want to be able to look a parent and say every coach on my staff, my kids could play for. And I am in this last year was the first year I could really say that I would I'd let my kid play for everybody on our staff. And luckily pretty much that whole staff is back. And so, um, you know, I think it's a feel thing. I think it's a feel thing. I think you give people opportunities until they just run out of opportunities. Um, but if they're doing so many of those other things right, you got to be really careful because if you're trying not to send a message that it's win or bust, and then you make a move when and everybody knows everything's going right with this program, except they may just not be winning quite enough games, you're sending a message, and you got to be careful with that. And so and again, especially this place like me, like our when I took over mid 2000s teens, right, 15, 16, we were pretty siloed. And I think a lot of athletic departments, I'm starting to find more and more athletic departments are pretty siloed. Like the coaches don't know each other. Like they kind of stay in their own little worlds, and the athletes stay in their own little worlds. And I wasn't going to have that. Like I can't. I don't want to be in that world. I want our coaches to be friends. We do as much together as a staff as we possibly can. Now I'm an anti-meeting guy. I cannot stand meetings. I'm not pulling them in once a week just to talk at them and hear them hear me talk. So I developed a thing called Monday Thoughts, and I will work all week on an email that goes out first thing Monday morning. And in that email, first Monday morning, it literally bullet points. Here's everything you need to know for this week. Here's what's coming. Here's what I need from you. Here's who won this weekend. Here's the schedule this week. And it's very simple. We'll do a quick devotional sometimes at the bottom, but it's just, you can open that at 8 o'clock. Everything I need to tell you is in that email because I've spent 6 days putting it all in there together. A couple minutes here, a couple minutes there, but by the end of the week, it's put together. And I don't think we had one staff meeting last semester as a group. And you talk about they love that, right? Because
I
again, they're
love
busy.
that.
So I just, but again, but yet outside of that, we still do a lot of staff stuff. Like, we always we have a big staff softball game every summer. We have a family picnics where we want kids involved. We did a thing last year where I want our coaches to have some work-life balance. And at the NAI level, you can do that. And so we had a seminar. We brought in a counselor who did a seminar with spouses and our coaches and talked about the challenges of being married to a coach. And spouses were able to sit around the room and talk to other spouses and go, "Oh, you have that same problem. Oh, he disappears for 2 months on you too. I see." And it was really a positive night. And building relationships. My wife does an amazing job of once or twice a semester getting all the spouses together and they go do a big activity. I want them to feel like there's it's worth this lifestyle, all this stuff that they're doing. It's worth it, right? And because being married to coaches isn't easy. I mean, they are selfish, they are focused, they are, and our wrestling coach is maybe one of the ones I'm the most proud of because he may have been one of the worst at that. And he has worked so hard on that. When I talked to his wife this year during a match, we had a duel and I said, "How's he doing?" And she's like, "It's been like a different guy this year. Like he's so present when he's at home. And that made me as happy as his success he's having on the mat. Right. So again, there's just so much to this. It's all about helping people get in the right frame of mind to be as good as they can possibly be, right? And then when they're not, help them out of it. At the same time, you got to be the guy that sometimes says no. Now the other ADs in our conference say I don't say no very often, right? Because we've got some resources, so they give me a hard time about that. But I still have to say no, right? You still have to be the guy that makes those final decisions in a lot of cases. And so, a guy like Coach Souter, he's a pusher. If he's not walking down my hallway a couple times a day asking for stuff, I think something's wrong, right? And so he's a pusher, but I'd rather have a pusher than somebody I got to motivate. And I'd rather tell him no or not now or let's wait on that than somebody that I got to go down to their office and see if they're even here, right? And so that's the challenge. But it's so much fun because you don't know. I literally, when I wake up in the mornings, I don't know what I'm going to get every day. Like I don't, I'm dealing with all these different lives and all these different personalities and all these different things. And we have kind of, you've heard this a million times, but we've got kind of that is this a problem a week from now, a month from now, a year from now, right? As far as level of emergencies, because coaches like to escalate emergencies. Like if it's something like, is this really an emergency, or is this something that we can sit through and talk about? And they're getting good at figuring that kind of stuff out. So
Well, Chris, you read my mind because I wanted to get into Coach Souter. That said, before I get into that, I like what you said at the beginning of that comment. You said, if I wouldn't let my children play for this coach, then that kind of gives me my answer. I think that is solid. That goes with how Rich and I operate. So I really appreciate that. So, Coach Souter, you have something, Rich?
I was just going to say, Chris, you bring up a lot of great points there, and you're bringing a lot of things to think about in terms of what goes on with the coaches and stuff. And obviously, wins and losses are really, that's an important thing. But you also, like, I didn't think about kids ending up in the newspaper because of things on Saturday night and how that looks for a program and that sort of stuff. It's interesting, you always think, or maybe there's a coach that's not getting his budgets or his expense reports done, and there's like a lot of other things that factors that go in. You always see things where maybe a coach gets let go or moves on, or and maybe there's a lot more to some of those things than just the wins and losses, because sometimes it is a winning coach that doesn't get his contract renewed or something. It's like, oh well, maybe they have kids that are constantly getting arrested on a Saturday night, or they're just not doing their budgeting, or they're just focusing on the
there's
X's and
always,
O's.
yeah, there's always more to the story.
Yeah.
Very rarely is it simply wins and losses. There's always more to the story, and I'm very, coaches like to gossip, right? And they like to say what's going on, and oh, this person should left this job, and what happened here, and I am so quick to judge anything, or so slow to judge anything, because I tend to, now I know, most of the time we never know the truth, or you're only hearing one side of stories, especially in the media. And and when a school, let's say, I saw today there was a high level football player got arrested for a DUI, right? And what I've learned is, okay, let's get this facts. Let's not overreact. Let's figure out what it is. Let's get to the bottom of it. It could be as simple as that. There could be a lot more to the story. And so, how those schools handle, and people are like, well, they need to, in our crazy social media world, well, they want you to instantly react, right? And instantly do things. And actually it's smarter to just take more time and figure things out. And because the media, social media, they're going to get a hold of things and run away with it at a pace that's just not healthy for anybody.
Right.
And you just need to go slow with those things. So I've learned there's always more when you read something about a school or about something happened or a certain college. There's always so much more to the story than what's being reported.
Yeah. And you also touched on another thing, and then I'll let you get to it, Jim. But the importance of the connection and the family aspect within the department of I've been a part of some great athletic departments, and I've been a part of some not so great athletic departments, and the ones that have really thrived and been amazing and exceed across the board is like what you were just saying, where the coaches are friendly with one another, they look out for one another. It's kind of this, when everybody does better mentality, as opposed to like the crabs in a bucket. It's like, well, if I can't get my singlets, then I don't want you to get your track spikes. Or if I can't get my track
Right.
spikes, I don't want you to get your new tennis balls. And it's like,
Right.
let's all, hey, how'd it go? Oh, you guys won yesterday. Congratulations. Hey, great job with the team this year. Like that sort of stuff. Those are the athletic departments that I've been a part of that have really been successful, and like it's a kind of that commissioner's cup kind of thing where it's like, oh, they're winning here, they're winning here, they're winning here. This one almost made it. It's because the coaches get along and they look out for one another. And they're also from a high school level, sorry, they're not like protective of, well, this is my football player. I don't want him wrestling and I don't
Right.
want him running track, or this is my track athlete.
Right.
I don't want him playing back. It's like, no, hey, this kid's got potential. Let's get him in on the wrestling mat and make him a better lineman. And then let's get him throwing the discus and the shot put. And then all of a sudden now he's a more marketable athlete for the next level.
It's my, I can tell you the highlight of this. You didn't ask, but I'm going to tell you because it relates back to what you're talking about. Um, the absolute highlight of my time in 8 years was when women's soccer won, and they got a police escort back to campus, and they came into the gym, and I walked into the gym, and not only was the gym full of all of our student athletes and our students on campus, but our administrative staff, our cabinet, and every one of our coaches was there. And I saw coaches from other programs in tears, emotional, when those ladies walked in the gym to celebrate this. And I got emotional, and people will joke I do that, but this was like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I've been wanting. Like, not just the championship, that was awesome, but it was the way our staff was literally like, our women's basketball coach was in tears, happy when those kids walked in the gym and those coaches walked in the gym. And the reception was just, it just blew me away. I mean, we were going to have a reception, and I went down and met them with the police on the bus and rode in with them. And I literally was panicking 20 minutes before I walked in that gym that nobody'd be there. Right. And then to walk into over 1,000 people, and and all of our coaches hugging on our women's soccer coach. Like, it was it was unbelievable. And I thought, man, we're there. Like, our coach, this is awesome, because they're all so happy for him, right? And they're also happy for that team. And so that's what you want. What you don't want is them sitting at home going, well, forget him. I want to win one. Like, he must have got this or he must have got that. No, it just, everything fell right for him this year, right? And let's celebrate it. And then when you win, we're going to do the same thing for you, you know? So that, I don't know any other way to do it. I don't want to be around anything that is not like that.
You bring up how special that was, that all those coaches came out, all the other teams came out. And we all know that basketball and football tend to get the crowds. But we
Mhm.
also know that something you want to do is you want to get people at everything. So how do you build as far as, getting people? I don't know if archery has home things. I don't know how that
Mhm.
works. Forgive my ignorance, but like, how do you get
Sure.
people at the archery stuff? And or how do you build the student body to go to some of these niche sports, or to start filling wrestle matches and things?
So we did some pretty cool things, and I got to give Christy Brewer some credit on this, who's does our game ops, and was a former soccer player for us, goalie, and then I groomed her from that to a GA to now full time to now assistant AD. And one of her ideas was, there's like these companies that were just getting started at the time when we started. Of We actually have an app. We have a rewards app, and kids, it's got everything in that app. You can stream our games. It's got all our schedules. It's geo fenced, so that when you go to one of our venues, you can tap in that you checked in and you got points for going. And there's like, it's just like a Kroger app, or whatever your gas station apps are, right? And you get so many points at the year. You get prizes at the end of the year. You collect them. Kids love t-shirts, right? Kids will do anything for those kind of things. We're giving away gift cards and Amazon. I mean, it's just crazy, all the stuff that's on here when these kids accumulate points. And so that was one of the first things we did. And now the downloads, and I should have asked her today what the downloads are. It's incredible, the thousands of downloads that this app has. And that so we don't charge admission to our games. It's kind of a community initiative I have, where I don't, we have our kids out in the schools a lot, and I don't want, in our area, I, $20 to go to a game's a lot. And I don't want, kids prohibited from coming to our stuff because the parents, $20 is a lot, right? So, but we don't really track attendance except for this app. We can track how many students show up all the time for all this stuff. And it is incredible, what that they tap in, and then they started coming, and they're realizing, whoa, this is really fun. Like, to come to we do our wrestling matches in our volleyball gym with the spotlight, the whole deal. It's dark, and they are having a blast in there. And once they start coming and realizing how much fun they have, we let our students sit in the end zone in football. They're right in the action. They love it. Like, once they started coming and seeing how much fun everything was, then it's been like, now they just come, right? Like, it's the thing. And so, but that was a good kickstart to it, really. It really was. And we actually had a competition this year, which sport um, would support the other teams the most. And actually, both of our wrestling teams won that. Our women's wrestling and our men's wrestling teams were our best like team supporters this year, and showed up at the most events and did the most crazy stuff. And so it's really fun. It's hard when you have 1,000 athletes and everybody's doing their own thing all the time, right? So you're going to have some that are more populated than others because, like a Saturday game, all our teams are gone. They're if they're not playing, it's hard for them to go to somebody else's game when they're already playing, right? But you get weeknight games, it's incredible. Um, so we kind of started that, and that's been a huge hit. Um, and then the other thing I've noticed is like some of our more international heavy sports, swimming, tennis, soccer. Man, those kids support the heck out of each other. So our soccer crowds, our tennis crowds are awesome because all the soccer kids are coming. And so it's really kind of a fun to see which teams kind of support each other that way just naturally because they're all friends, right?
Well, Chris, you mentioned the wrestling coach's dedication. Then you mentioned the spotlight and the team support. Rich, put them on the list. We got to
Yep.
talk to the wrestling coaches. That said, you bring up the app and you bring up they can stream events on the app. And prior to that, you brought up you worrying about social media. Now, the technology of things is a huge part of being an athletic director, running programs, streaming games, getting the social media out. Was that something that you were ready for when you took the job? And does that evolve every year and get bigger and bigger?
It does. Yes, we were ready for it. Again, we've always had a pretty robust sports information department budget. But then one of the first hires I made was Tommy Chasnoff, who came to us from SCAD Savannah, who was a Paralympian actually runner, and he's an amazing story from Florida, and really gifted individual. And he has taken us to a whole nother level from a sports information standpoint. Brandon Hensley does all of our videos and our broadcasting. If you listen to him, you think he's a professional. He could be calling games on Fox, ESPN. There's no doubt in my mind. He is so gifted at just the way he calls games and the way he does things and the neutrality that he calls them with. But we usually try to do multiple cameras. We always try to do commentary. We do the graphics. We'll do replays when we don't have three events going on at one time. We'll make sure we're streaming them all, but we may not be able to do replay at each one, right? We've added the video boards to our football field and our football stadium and our uh, soccer lacrosse field. And we're actually adding another video board to swimming this year. And we'll do replays on those. That takes a whole nother team over here to operate that board on top of who's our video production on top of the stats, right? So to me, that is the way you connect it. It blows my mind, and you guys have probably dealt with this some. It blows my mind at these schools charging for streams. So these parents are already paying for these kids to go to school. They've got family members all over the country, and we're charging them $10 to watch an NAI game. Like, what are we doing, guys? Like, I'm not trying to. I think there's value in that game, and I'm not saying that game's not worth $10, but really, like, there's a school that now is a monthly subscription. Like, you have to subscribe and pay a yearly, pay every month and a year to get access to their games. And finally, we have gone to the NAIA and begged them to quit charging for streamings of national tournament. My president can't watch national tournament games without paying, right? And I went to the NAIA, and one of the things we talked about some of the leadership there at convention is, guys, that doesn't even make sense, right? Like, we we want people to see these games. We want access. We want people eyes on this. Why on earth are we closing it off? And so finally, I think we've broken down those walls. So I think the NEI said they're not going to charge next year for championships, but I just don't understand nickel and diamond those people. And most of these productions aren't very good anyway. Like ours is I think tremendous, but most of them aren't worth the $10. It looks like the camera from like the men's soccer national game last night. Like looked like the camera was on the moon, right? And so it's you're getting into one of my pet peeves here, but because I want people to have access to watch play. They got to be able, if they can't get there, they got to be able to watch their kid play and their grandkid play, right? And these parents, these international kids, these soccer kids, and these, like they got to be able to watch, and you got to give them access to it. And charging them $10 for every game is just, I just don't understand it. But that is to me, Tommy and I go round and round about this. Sports information now, or sports communication, is much less about writing stories and writing articles, and it's more now about videos, highlights, social media, graphics. That's the direction. And we need to spend a lot less time writing articles and a lot more time where people can see it on Instagram, see it on, all that, and be able to post highlights and videos, because that's what they want to see.
Rich, I'm gonna start giving Chris the Pat McAfee. I'm gonna stand up and just start clapping.
What?
Yeah.
Coach, you must have Jimmy and I have this conversation all the time because again, we're fans of cross country, track and field, and wrestling, sports that don't really necessarily have huge fan bases. They have very loyal fan bases, but the conversation is often around growing the sport. How do we grow this sport? How do we get more people interested in it? But yet every major competition that we want people to see most of the time is behind some sort of a paywall, and or there's one
Yeah.
or two organizations that are controlling that. It's like I want to watch one event, but you're trying to finagle me into buying a yearly subscription because I save X amount of dollars. It's like, and then when you pay for it, the stream goes down. It's only a single cam coverage, or it's like the worst cam ever. So man, you're hitting hitting a lot of things that
It's
Jimmy and I have discussions with on a regular basis.
it's so frustrating, and I'm so happy that AI is starting to come around on this, and because all you're doing is limiting who can watch it. I would love for people to watch our men's basketball tournament in Kansas City. It's so much fun to watch, but you put it behind a paywall, they're not going to watch. I mean, they're just not. And um, so I think we're starting to break down those walls, though. And I can't. Obviously, the individual schools are going to do what they need to do to make their budget, but um, that is just something we feel really strongly about. Yeah.
So I had a question before about Coach Souter, but we've been going down some good roads,
Sure.
so I decided to let it go
I'm
there.
trying to avoid it. I was trying to keep
Yeah,
going somewhere
no,
else.
it's
Maybe you
it's I
forget.
I want to get some insight, and I want to see what you said, because you said about your football coach. He's building the program. He's taking the slow approach to it, and we know Coach Souter, when he got the job, he said 5 years or fire me. I want to know what your reaction was when you just hired a guy and he said 5 years or you can fire me.
I think it was four.
That's a true story.
Four?
Yeah, he did not exaggerate that story. I heard that when I was listening, and I thought, man, I can't believe he told that. He did. He said it. That's how confident I think he was in the resources we were providing him and his abilities. And he is the ultimate bull in a china shop. I mean, he's going, and he just doesn't. He's so passionate. I tell you what's crazy. A lot of people mistake. I heard him talk about some coaches won't talk to him, or he comes off, and he was kind of opening up about that, and he'll play it off like it doesn't bother him. I think he's misunderstood in some respects. But I can tell you one thing: those athletes love him. They absolutely worship him, and because they know that he pours every ounce of him into them as well. And so those kids are achieving things that they didn't think they were capable of because he told them they could, and he believed in them. And that's what coaching is, right? And then to be able to, to attack the every day with the energy that he attacks every day with. Is really special. And I go back, I mentioned him a few times, so I got to mention, Dr. Temple. He was the coach when Bradley ran here, and it was before my time. I didn't know him. And when it came time to make this change, he said, this is the guy. And he wasn't even coaching track. He was being a youth pastor at the time, which again, that's a perfect role for him, right? Um, but his his passions with coaching, and he just attacked it. And what's scary about it, guys, is he did it with distance and middle distance this year. I mean, he's addressed the sprints with this next class. He's gonna do it with all the disciplines. He's just determined, and we're not going to hold him back. We're going to let him go. And it's just been, it's kind of funny. A lot of people thought, well, you won Learfield Cup because track, and no doubt, I think track is the key to Learfield Cup because it represents 6 disciplines, right? Football represents 1, men's basketball represents 1, track 6, right? Men and women, 6 sports, and they all count. And so to me, I knew what maybe I'm slow. Maybe it took me too long to figure out that that was the key, right? But our FAR did some math, and I haven't shared this with our coaching staff yet. But if you take all our track points away and you add in everybody who we dropped, we still would have finished second, even without track. So that's a testament to the athletic department, but it also can show you the value of how important a good track program is. But he is. I don't know how he does it because he has a ton of athletes too. I mean, he's got 150 athletes. His track team, men and women's, as big as our football team, and but he's invested in all those guys, and we of course have had to add some. We've had to add assistants, and we're adding some resources to help him because he can't sustain this, without some more help. And we're trying to give him some more help, and he's earned it. But he's a special dude, and he's infectious, and you know he's better than anybody on our staff at when something cool happens to another team, retweeting it, putting it back out there. His famous "Let's freaking go," he always puts that on everything, right? But he's better than yeah, he is better than our staff than anybody on our staff at trying to prop up everybody else too.
Yeah, we're big fans, and his energy and his passion is something that is second to none. And from the first time we talked to him, we were, that was right after it was after the indoor season, but kind of towards the later portion. I think it might have been right before, right after the conference championships. And like I said earlier when we started, I'm the track guy, I'm the cross country guy, I'm the runner guy. But when the NAIA national championships were going on, Jimmy was going back and forth with me, and he was giving me updates about how people were doing, how they were running, because we were both following it. So when someone can get Jimmy into following a track meet from remotely online, that speaks volumes about coach and
That's huge.
his
Yeah.
passion. Yeah.
Well, listen, I went to indoor, and got to experience that, and that was a blowout. It didn't have any of the drama that outdoor did. But during outdoor, I was in Idaho with our baseball team at the World Series. Like first world problems, right? Like we have so much cool stuff going on when we're trying to, but but I mean, I'm trying to track it. I'm getting phone calls. I'm getting like, it was just, here I am in Idaho, and it comes down to this relay, and then seeing the videos of that reaction, and it's all genuine. Like it was all genuine, all the emotion. It was incredible. So he has he's turned the NAI or small college track world upside down, but he's not going anywhere. Like they need to get used to it. They need to understand that what he's going to do is special, and he loves our school, and he has no aspirations to do anything else. And he loves that logo as much as anybody, and he's going to be here and do it for a while.
It's a sweet logo too, by the way.
We love it. Yeah, we instituted again in this world of transfer portal society that we live in, right? How do you get kids to be happy where they are? How do you get them to like appreciate where they are, right? Like it's got to be more than about them. It's got to be about something bigger. And so we instituted something this year. Again, a great idea Christy brought to us. where we didn't have any post-game traditions. Like William Penn, I was friends with the former AD there, and he's now the commissioner of their conference, and they have a victory bell. So every time one of their teams wins a home game, they bring this old bell, looks like it's from the 1940s or 50s, and they ring the victory bell. And I thought, man, I love that. Like, how cool is that? Like, I'd love to do something like that. And so we created something really simple. We made a poster for every team, and we got a bunch of Patriot head stickers. And after every win, they go over and they put a Patriot head sticker on the poster. And it's something as simple as it's to me, it symbolized a reminder of, hey, we're doing this for something bigger than us, right? But we're also going to celebrate a win. And it became like a huge deal. Like they started looking for, I would have kids come up to me before the game, we're getting that sticker today. Bring that sticker to me. I'm putting it on the board, those kind of things. And in every venue, and we made sure we positioned those things where the other team was leaving, like they're not seeing really what we're doing or whatever. We tried to be pretty sensitive to that, but um, man, the videos for that just take off. Like they're all over social media, and they get a little celebration, and it's just kind of a symbolize of, again, trying to get, we talk about, other than one big team, we talk about love the logo. Like I want our kids to, when they leave here 20, 30 years from now, like you've probably got gear from your school that is in your closet that, like Jimmy, especially like wrestling, right? What you had to go
Mhm.
through in those wrestling practices and those training, and Richard, in those track and cross country, and in the hours and the sweat and the training room and the bus rides and you, how can you throw that shirt away? How can you give that to Goodwill? Right. And that's what I want our kids to be like when they've got that stuff in their closet, when they're my age, or I want them to go, I can't, man, that was such a big part of me. And they may not remember the wins and losses. They're going to remember the bus trips. They're going to remember the restaurants. They're going to remember the hotels. They're going to remember their teammates. They're going to remember all the inside jokes. Man, like that logo, I want that to really matter to them. These kids nowadays, we see on TV, it's not even, you don't even blink twice during March Madness when these kids have played at 3 or 4 different schools,
Yeah.
right? But at our level, we don't need to be that way. We still have students first, right? They're still students, and they're students that play sports, which is what I love about our level. Man, I want them to fall in love with what we're doing here, right? And we always talk about overtime, last second shots, final minutes. You know, the team that loves their logo the most is going to win that game. It's not that kid that loves himself the most or is thinking about himself the most. It's the group that cares more about what they're representing that's going to push through in those moments. And that's the stuff we talk about. And then so to me, just that little post game 30 seconds kind of helps send that message of look what we did for this, right? And it's just stuff like that's to me, that's how you stack culture, right? Positive on top of positive on top of positive. Like that's how you stack that. And those are just little things that we've done, but it's really creating huge ripples across the whole group, across the whole campus.
Chris, you said something there about, you don't throw away that old shirt or whatever. I have tattered sweatpants with
Mhm.
holes and tattered shirts with holes that should be in a case at this point because they never get worn, but it's something that no matter how many moves Rich and I make, when it's time to, offload some clothes up, I'm bringing it with me. So
Yeah, but that's you've invested in that piece of that is not just a sweatshirt. That is not just sweatpants. That is not, man, that embodies like a lot of hard work and a lot of effort and a lot of success and a lot of tragedy. Like there's a lot to it. And we want those kids to have that connection.
Chris, you've brought up a lot of the programs and highlighted some of the coaches. Is there any programs that you have a coach that is most improved or really, really done something that you haven't mentioned, or any programs that these next couple seasons we need to be paying attention to?
Man, a lot of them. It's hard. That list is probably longer than who to not. I do think men's and women's wrestling is getting ready to take off. Corey Ruff is our men's wrestling coach. I love him. And I think he's doing a great job. Sarah Allen's a former athlete for us, took over women's wrestling this year. She's going to do a great job. Um, Baseball, softball continue to be, top 5 programs going to the World Series every year. Really excited about where basketball is coming up. I feel like I'm leaving people out, but I mean, I just I think everybody's in such a good place right now, that I think the next couple of years are going to be really, really special, across the board. And I'm excited with what I mean. I'm excited about. I had a great talk with our bowling coach today. He is so excited about some of the kids he's got coming in, and we got a golf course the golf course that I was a pro at for so many years has been closed in recent years, is reopening with a new owner. Getting our golf teams back out there is going to be dynamic for them, and so there's just so many cool things with that are kind of breaking for us. So uh, I think they're all going to be pretty good. I think you guys know where track's going to be. They're going to be top 3, if not winning, in about every one of those 6 disciplines. And so
Triple
uh,
crown, baby.
he says that's his goal. I man, I don't know, but you know what? I wouldn't put it past him after what I've seen in 2 years.
Yeah. We're rooting for him.
No,
All
he's
6 of them.
dynamic. It's incredible. No, it's just it's a great time for us. And again, our president is really good. He says it's never as good or bad as it seems, right? And I think that's a really good way to live life.
Mm.
We're on a high. I don't think it's a peak. I think we're still elevating, but um, the same thing happened to me when I was a golf coach. We'd have an amazing year, and I'd look at and that it'd be June, and I'd think, gosh, how are we going to top that next year? And then every year we always figured out a way to do it. And it's been similar in this role. Like I finally get a chance to rest. Once things kind of quiet down here, we hit 1st of July, and I get 3.5 whole weeks before kids come back for fall camp. And I'm like, okay, how are we going to top this? But I think we can, right? So it's just, again, my brain has been going to what is my message to this staff? How am I going to approach what just happened and prepare them because there's a lot of resentment out there. There's a lot of resentment, a lot of other coaches, a lot of other schools, we've got a target on our back. And how do we handle that? How do we move forward? And so there's always a challenge with this thing. It's never quiet. Some days are more quiet than others, but there's always a challenge, and there's always a next way to be thinking. All right, what's the next step? And that kind of thinking is what put our school in a good place financially. Is what was the next thing? And we're always kind of thinking ahead, what's around the next corner, and we have to do the same thing. And I almost hate to say it, but I think it's NIL. I think NIL is the next thing at our level because it's going to bleed down, right? And so where are we going to go with it? We were the first to start with open doors and have NIL, and we have NIL, but our deals are more like in kind. Kids get free food if they post on Instagram, those kind of things. Are we going to have to start a collective? Is that going to be how recruiting is going to be going? If our kids going to get to the NAI level and say, well, I need $1,000 a month, and how are we were already losing kids to some D2 schools. We lost a baseball player to a D2 school because they were going to pay him, a couple $1,000s a month. We're not doing that, right? And so if it's bleeding into D2, then it's going to bleed into us. And so how do we stay ahead of this? And part of me doesn't want to go down that road, and part of me realizes that it may be inevitable. So that's kind of where we at. We're just trying to figure out what's coming down the line, at the same time making sure our coaches are in the right headspace presently.
Best way to handle the target on your back is to keep winning and kill everyone with kindness.
Yes, and stay humble. And
And
I will say,
yes, stay humble.
that I've a lot of people asked. I was in Vegas a couple weeks ago for an ACTA, and we accepted the Learfield and a national AD award, and people like, hey, congratulate. I got a ton of texts all over the country. It was awesome because I love the NAI community because we're all pretty close, but but it was humbling. It was very humbling to be standing on that stage with Texas's AD, next to Arizona's AD. Like it was like, where am I? It was surreal, is what it was. But it's very humbling. Like you would think it would boost your ego, but it really is more like you take a deep breath and you go, okay, wow, we're really fortunate, right? And let's keep it. Let's stay humble um, and just put our head down and go to work, like you're saying. That's the way you do it. You put your head down, you go to work, and you don't apologize for being successful.
Never.
Rich, before we get into the final four, I must ask Chris a golf question. You just said that your local golf course was getting refurbished. They were redoing
Hmm.
everything, and you're excited for that. Do you still get to get out and play? Do you
Oh
still
yeah,
get out there?
yeah. I'm still a zero. Actually, I think my index right now is 0.0. But and we're actually my wife and I we're really looking forward to. We're going to build a house out on that course. So we're going to start that process here later this summer. So we're super excited. She plays and just got back from a golf trip. A bunch of our coaches and we all went down to Tennessee and played for the weekend. So I get this stretch, June, July, August. I play pretty good. Part of the reason I want to move and live out on the golf course is I can sneak out and play a little bit during the school year where I haven't been doing that because we have pretty good weather here most of the year. So, but yes, I'm fortunate enough to still play and play pretty decently. But you know how golf is. You never figure it out. You always want to play better, and so. But that is that is going to be my kind of sanity thing for the next 10 or 12 years is having that golf course and having a little bit of refuge there and so that thanks for that, but I do love it. It's it's a lot of fun.
Well, congratulations for building a house on a golf course. I would think as a PGA pro, that was the dream for a long time.
Yeah, and especially the one I live at and love and was worked at, and so we are thrilled to be heading that way again. And people around here know how important that golf course is to me. So I'm so glad the new owner came in and got it going. So be a lot of fun. Now, I'm not sure if I'm looking forward to the house build part, but
Mhm.
once it's done, it'll be great. So
Well, congratulations. Jim, I got one
yeah.
more. Chris, you're in Kentucky. You've been there for
Mhm.
quite a while, but you're originally from
Mhm.
Ohio, correct?
Yep.
So, question I ask all people from Ohio, is it true that anything south of Columbus really is Kentucky?
Yeah. Yeah, it is, especially southeast Ohio. Um, that is definitely Kentucky. I would, I'll give you that because I'm from Worcester originally, so up near Canton, Akron area.
Okay.
So unfortunately, I'm a Cleveland sports fan, and
Okay.
I get to live and die with that. And so, but yeah, I think growing up, I 100% thought that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Right on. Well, I appreciate it.
I'm
Rich,
getting nervous
Chris,
about these four questions here. So
you'll
They're
be good.
easy.
okay.
Rich, Chris is the first person you asked that to that didn't get offended
Well, that's the thing. I think it all depends on, I
where
think
you're
maybe
from.
some people that might be south of Columbus might take offense to it, and other people that are from like Cleveland or Columbus or other areas are like, well, yeah, I mean the
It's a
Cincinnati
perfectly
airport's
fair
in
question.
Kentucky.
Yeah, it's a perfectly fair question.
Chris, first question I got for you. Are you a coffee drinker?
No,
No.
Diet Mountain Dew in the mornings.
Woo.
Wow.
It's
Good for
good.
you.
You are in Kentucky.
I actually signed an NIL deal with our Pepsi, my own NIL deal with our Pepsi, local Pepsi distributor for Diet Mountain Dew. So,
Good for
yeah.
you.
Yeah, good for you. Good for you. Chris, do you have any daily practices or rituals that you do on a regular basis to show up as the strongest version of Chris Kraftick?
So, the best thing I do is I have learned to take an hour at lunch and I go work out. So we have a great fitness center on campus, and my staff knows from 12:15 to 1:15 that's where I will be. And I'm going to put my headphones in and I'm going to listen to my rock music and I'm going to just kind of and I don't get in a complete zone because there's a lot of student during school years, a lot of student athletes down there, right? And but I'm always fist bumping, saying hi to those guys. But then I'm still going about my business, and I don't have a lot of time to loiter. I got to get in there, get it done, shower, and get back to the office. But I don't go out for lunches. Like I don't go out and socialize for lunch and those kind of things. I try to make that hour really productive for me, but it's as much for my mental space as it is for my body, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And I would imagine that's got to be pretty impactful for the student body to see you in there getting after it. Like you said, you're giving fist bumps and everything. I mean, I think if I were to have seen my athletic director working out when I was in there working out, that would, again, that having, loving the logo and loving the school and all those
Mm.
things, I think that just in and of itself adds to the culture and the we are one big team kind of mindset.
Yeah, and anytime you spend time around them that's outside of a normal situation, it's positive,
Yeah.
right? They're like I want them to feel like I'm approachable. So that's an ancillary benefit to it. I'm doing it really to clear my head for an hour in the middle of the day, and but man, it has worked out great, and my staff's amazing with it. Like now, 1:15, I start getting text messages and phone calls, but
Mhm.
up until then, they've been really good about it.
Awesome.
Well, Chris, you mentioned listening to rock music when you're working out. That kind of
Mhm.
bleeds into our next question. What are you listening to right now? Music, podcasts, audiobooks? Are you reading anything?
From a golf standpoint, I'm a huge No Lane Up fan. I love those guys, their podcast. So I listen to them, and yeah, I'm like a Breaking Benjamin, Seether, that kind of stuff. I love those guys. Godsmack, like it doesn't. You don't like. I always laugh. I tell my wife, like, if kids knew what I was listening to, they'd be shocked, right? They like when I'm down there working out, but that stuff always gets me going and puts me in the right frame of mind. I don't know why, but yeah, that's kind of Breaking Benjamin's my favorite right now, and I don't know why I've been on a kick of theirs lately, but yeah, not probably what you expect from a 48-year-old guy, but I do like it. So.
I
I'm
mean,
right there
Rich is
with you, Chris. I'm
48. He gets
48
down
too.
with it.
Yeah. But and then if you go a little lighter, I like, Foo Fighters, and had a huge disappointment. I was a lifelong Pearl Jam fan, right? And my wife for my birthday was going to take me to a concert in Indianapolis, and we literally got to Indianapolis and they canceled the concert that day.
Oh man.
And I was like, I had never seen him in person, so a little disappointment there. But so it can go from that lithium like on Sirius, that kind of thing, to more turbo, if that's really my spot. So
Do you have any thoughts on Creed?
I don't understand. Explain to me. I was actually saying this to somebody the other day. My son, who's 22, who also likes what he calls divorced dad rock. Um, why why is Creed playing on turbo? I don't understand. They just don't seem to fit that genre.
Well,
But
I think
sorry.
they've had a resurgence.
They have. I was
I
gonna get
guess,
into
yeah,
that. Yeah, I'm 37 and my generation kind of loves Creed. We were in middle school when they got big and
right.
guys like you and Rich's age, that was kind of like wannabe Pearl Jam for you guys, but we got into it, but there was a long period of time where like you couldn't admit that you like Creed. And I don't know if just like stuff comes back around, but it came back around and
Yeah.
everyone's like, "Well, I had that album. I had that album.
I
Yeah, I like
guess
Creed."
because all of a sudden they have popped up again. I was just noticing that the other, like in the last couple of weeks, that they're really starting to play a lot of their stuff again. So I just didn't. I don't know where they fit. So I don't.
They don't.
Hater.
Chris, the last one we have for you. Do you have a guilty pleasure or guilty pleasures? It could be food. I was a caddy for a long time. I know cigars are something that is a standby on the golf course.
Not, gosh. I mean, trying to think. Ice cream, but I've gotten really good about not eating it at night now. Like that was a problem for a while. Like I would literally sneak in the kitchen at night, and
Mhm.
you know, but I've gotten a little more disciplined when it comes to that. Um, I don't. It sounds weird, but not really. Don't have anything like that. I don't have a great answer for that one. I've had good answers
No
for the others,
worries.
but I think it would be that. But I've really been disciplined about trying to stay away from it and uh, try to be conscious of the weight at this point now. So be
Respect.
better about be better about that stuff. So
All right, not a problem. There are no wrong answers on Airy Rose Radio.
uh,
We've heard it all, and some people don't. Some people just say I don't feel guilty about anything. Other people don't really get down with anything, and then we've had different things like whiskey, cigars, different
oh
types of
yeah.
food, sweets. So
What
it's all
did
good.
Souter say? What did Souter say?
Man, that's a good question.
Because that guy, I mean, he's the most fit. I've never seen anybody.
He's
It's incredible.
jacked.
It's unbelievable. Um, I tell him I don't think he's ever had a carb in his life. Oh yeah, I have, but it's
He eats them
incredible.
every day
So
for breakfast. He eats those muffins, right? Does he eat
I
those
That's
I
right.
don't
bags of
see how
muffins?
if you saw him, you would not think he does.
Yeah.
It's incredible. I don't know what he's doing away from working out, but it's incredible. So he puts us all to shame.
Yes.
Well, we're lucky to have met him and had conversations with him, and let's have a great conversation with you. Chris, before we let you get out of here, we forgot to do this in the beginning, but any of the socials, anywhere you want people to find you or the university
Yeah,
athletic department, floor is
yeah,
yours.
it's on. Yeah, just I'm on X, Instagram, those things, and of course all the UC Patriots is everywhere. So if you just search UC Patriots and all that stuff, I think mine's is UC Pats AD. But you're welcome to follow. I'm open. I don't block it. I think that's huge. I want our student athletes to follow me and feel free and parents and those kind of things. So I keep a lot of that stuff strictly UC stuff though. I don't get into politics, any of that nonsense. I want to promote us and stay in our little world that we can control and so that tends to be what I do with those things. I was our sports information team made me get back on Instagram, so I'm back on that now. But yeah, I just I appreciate the platform. You guys are great. You've been great for what you're trying to do to promote small schools is amazing, and you've been awesome to us, and hopefully was able to shed some light on some of the things we deal with every day. So
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great conversation. And yeah, even though Jimmy and I are not alumni or never strapped on a singlet or a pair of spikes for the Patriots, we are fans and we look
We
forward
love the
to
logo.
we love the logo.
love the
We
logo exactly.
look forward to all the success with Coach Souter in the fall and we also we're going to get the wrestling coaches on here and continue to support you guys. So keep doing
Yeah,
what you're
you'll
doing.
you'll enjoy those combos. They're special. They're good people.
Awesome.
Yep.
Thank you, Chris. This like
All right.
everything Rich said. Thank you so much.
No, thank you guys.